Today is the day. That's right. I said that I would give you guys an honest review for Indiana Jones 4, and here it is. I still remember the hype for this movie back then. LEGO released a bunch of sets to promote the movie. They made an animation that is just another way of telling consumers to buy their merch, but that was only on the LEGO side. LEGO is fun and awesome! Except for shitty LEGO Spider-Man sets. Anyway, I did watch the movie when I was young back then, and I enjoyed it. These days, I hear a lot of people talk trash about the movie. Some are trying to pretend the movie doesn't exist, a usual behavior I see from a lot of people. But was it really that bad, or was it just a bunch of exaggeration? You're watching my video. Let's get into it, shall we? Rather than dividing this review into visuals and story-wise elements, I'm going to be doing a positives and negatives type review. To begin on the positive side of the movie, I'll start with the cherry on the top, the soundtrack by John Williams. It never gets old to hear John Williams' music. If you remember hearing his scores from movies like the first 3 Harry Potter movies, Jurassic Park, Jaws, Home Alone, or Star Wars, then this one should keep your attention up. You'll hear iconic tunes and melodies throughout the movie, giving you that feel of satisfying nostalgia. Classical music, strings, wind instruments, you name it. The nuke scene. While this scene was heavily criticized for the bullshit moment where Indiana Jones survives, which I will get to in the later part, you must give some credit where credit's due. For the time, it's a good destruction scene. There's no music playing. The way the movie portrays the atom bomb blowing up a peaceful town in the desert is nicely done. You first get a flash in the background of the house, then everything in the town begins to cook and fry up, giving it orange-brown color shader to show how hot it feels. Then the shockwave hits, decimating everything in the radius. And let's not forget, this was the scene that was the inspiration for one of the greatest Call of Duty maps of all time, Nuketown. I still remember being exposed to Nuketown for the first time. When I was playing Call of Duty Black Ops with my cousins on the PS3, we chose Nuketown and I instantly thought of Indiana Jones 4. The movie gives us, the viewers, new and old characters to the experience. Right off the bat, the actors do a mostly good job in this movie. Harrison Ford feels like Indiana Jones. I mean, you can't replace Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones. Marion, played by Karen Allen, returns from Raiders of the Lost Ark in this movie. And, well, that's all for returning characters, if I can remember. New characters in this movie are Mutt Williams, played by Shia LaBeouf.
But you grab the snake! Grab the snake!
Arena Spalko, played by Lord of the Rings actress Cate Blanchett. Mech, played by Ray Winston. And Professor Oxley, played by Doctor Who actor John Hurt. Out of all the new cast of characters I like the most, would have to be Professor Oxley. He's just a funny old white fart who lost his mind from a funny alien skull.
Don't just sit there. Huh? For God's sake, man. Go get help. Help. Help! 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 Go!
Speaking of, the alien aspects. People have complained a lot about how the whole alien aspect ruined this movie. I don't think it's a bad thing. The movie takes place in the 1960s. This was at a time where the US and Russian governments were racing each other to see who gets into space, who gets to the moon first, hence the name Space Race. Before that, in 1947, there was the Roswell incident that happened in New Mexico. The government covered it up, causing conspiracy theorists to believe that it was a flying saucer. But what about the Crystal Skull, I hear you? The Crystal Skulls discovered in Mesoamerica were believed to be from aliens, hence why that, according to my research. The choice of theme could also be an homage to Steven Spielberg's Alien movies. So really, I don't think it's a necessarily bad thing, and even the movie does give it a valid excuse on why aliens.
Like the drawings in Oxley's cell. Means we're getting closer.
That's crazy. Why is it like that?
Nazca Indians used to bind their infants' heads with rope, elongate the skull like that.
Why?
Honor the gods.
No, God's head is not like that, man.
Depends on who your god is.
The props and sets are nicely done, probably made out of Play-Doh and chicken wire. 5 points to anyone who understood that reference. I also like the prop design for the alien stuff. The Crystal Skull looks sinister, but mesmerizing to look at. The charm brought from the first 3 movies. Just like the other 3 Indiana Jones movies, this movie has charms. Exploration, tomb raiding, vehicle chases, temples blowing up, the goofs, the romance, travel montages, fight scenes, shocks, and scares. It's all there. It's everything that a fan wants in a fun Indiana Jones experience. The introduction to this movie is fantastic. The old Paramount logo shows up, transitioning to a Gopher Hill. We see a bunch of students rocking out in a car, listening to good old 60s music. The camera then focuses on a US military truck and another car driving to a secret military base. Turns out the US soldiers were Russians in disguise, infiltrating the base for goodies. The Russians pull out a guy in the trunk of the car, and one of them tosses a hat out. We as the audience knows that it's Indy's hat. Indy comes out of the car, picking up his hat in a "aw shit, here we go again" feel, with a shadow of him putting the hat on. There's a lot of build-up, and the way the movie presents it is amazing. Lastly, this scene. Holy shit! This scene is so fucking traumatizing. Millions of deadly ants going into a beaten up man's mouth is probably the most horrifying way to die. This is one of the best death scenes in all of the Indiana Jones movies, and it's the best thing about this movie. Look up this scene on YouTube and you'll see Movie Clips' video with 100 million views, comments with people talking about how traumatized they were as kids when they saw this scene. I think what makes this scene so traumatizing is the fact that there are real ants in this world that, when in packs like huge armies, are really deadly. I also like this scene because it's reminiscent of Steven Spielberg's classic movie, Jaws, how he exaggerates nature being deadly as hell. Honestly, without this scene, this movie wouldn't be as memorable as it is. It can't be an Indiana Jones movie without at least one traumatizing death scene. So, those are the positive aspects I like about this movie. There were a lot of things I liked about the movie. But let's take a look at what we have on the negative side. To begin the negative side, I will be talking about the first negative thing people would talk about. I'll start off with the Nuketown scene. While this scene was amazing and was the inspiration for one of the best Call of Duty maps to be created, it does have flaws. The most notable is Indiana Jones surviving a nuke blast by being in a lead-flying fridge. I think that this is just silly. I am no scientist nor physicist or whatever occupation the kids are studying these days. I'm pretty sure nuclear explosions are extremely super hot, and the movie shows that. But even if Indiana Jones did survive the bomb explosion, there was also the fact that he survived the big impact he fell from. He would have never survived a nuclear bomb in reality. Yes, I did research, and there are some people on the internet that claim you can survive a nuclear explosion in a lead-lined fridge, so take it with a grain of salt. It's the internet. The use of CGI. I know that George Lucas at the time wanted to pioneer CGI technologies in movies. He did it with the Star Wars prequels. Looking back, I did enjoy them for what they were, and I thought he had a vision, but despite that, I think that the CGI in this movie is used to the point where it feels fake and not immersive. Now, this is not to say that CGI is a bad thing, nor George Lucas is bad. CGI can be a great tool if you're on a budget or if you want to create something out of this world, like Tron Legacy. I personally think in order to make the best special effects in movies would be combining practical and CGI to the point where I can't tell for sure what's real or what's not. The best example I can think of would be Zathura. In Zathura, there was a lot of CGI, but it also had a great use of practical effects as well, giving you that feeling that the experience is real. There's also Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. The director, Chris Columbus, thought that the first Harry Potter movie had bad special effects, which I don't blame him. I mean, look at it. So for the second movie, he added more practical effects to the scenes, making it to the point to this day, a 20-year-old movie, I can't tell what's real and what's not in this movie. While I praised a lot of the actors for their performance, I will say that two of the characters had poor writing. Mutt Williams, portrayed by the lovable Shia LaBeouf, and Mac, portrayed by Beowulf actor Ray Winston. Later in the movie, Mutt Williams is to be revealed in a comedic way that he's the son of Indiana Jones and Marion Ravenwood.
He
He's a good kid, Marion. You should get off his back about school.
But,
Not everybody's cut out for it.
his name is Henry.
Henry, good name.
He's your son.
My son?
Henry Jones III.
Why the hell didn't you make him finish school?
I found that subplot to be confusing. How is he the son of Indiana Jones and Marion Ravenwood? It's not explained a lot throughout the movie. As for Ray Wince's character, Mac keeps changing his arc, going from a friend of Jonesy to a spy for Spalco, going back to a friend of Indiana Jones to betraying him for money. I found this character to be not as interesting as some of the other companions in the other 3 films. Agent Spalco's death was underwhelming. Before Kirby Superstar Ultra traumatized me in middle school years, this scene was the most horrifying thing I've seen. I was closing my eyes and peeking, watching the antagonist and the other Nazis melting into bloodied skeletons. This was a really fucked up scene, and that's what made it so memorable. You also had that ant death scene I mentioned on my positive side of the review, but this scene wasn't a great death scene. What makes an Indiana Jones movie so memorable is how their villains die. Sure, the concept and the idea of having your mind burning from gaining so much knowledge sounds scary and shocking, but due to the use of CGI and the silly performance from Cate Blanchett, this scene just felt flat. Although this scene wasn't great, I will say it was a funny death scene. The alien making an eyebrow raised emoji face, Cate Blanchett's bad performance, the alien looking like an I Lamau alien. This scene was slept on for George Lucas memes, and I wish people made more memes using this scene. Speaking of, the alien aspects of this movie. While this doesn't bother me as much as a lot of people, and I have said some good things about it, I still think that the idea of introducing aliens in an Indiana Jones movie experience doesn't feel right. All the Indiana Jones movie have religion, mysticism, mythology as a theme. The Ark is themed on Judaism, the stones were themed on Hinduism, and the Holy Grail was themed on Christianity. But honestly, the CGI, the characters, alien elements, fridge, and death scenes, it doesn't bother me much. I can turn off my brain on those aspects because what I'm watching is an Indiana Jones experience. What makes this movie hard to watch for me is the lighting. There are scenes in this movie where the lighting is really bright. Some scenes work fine with the lighting, but there are times where it feels like a generic YouTuber content creator increased the brightness on Adobe Premiere to high on scenes. Mind you, this is in scenes where there's already a big exposure to light, most notably is sunlight. Combine that with the lens flare they also throw into this movie, and it becomes hard to just sit through because the lens flare and the lighting become really distracting. I cannot fathom why they chose to make the scenes this bright when the movie itself is fine without the lighting. Again, some scenes work fine with lighting, but not when they're already exposed to lighting. Well, that's all I have to say for negative aspects. Let's move on to the conclusion and verdict, shall we? In conclusion, I don't think Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull deserve the hate. Yes, there are flaws that may bring the experience down, such as the idea of adding aliens, the lighting, and CGI, but I was able to enjoy it for a fun Indiana Jones movie experience. I give Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull 4 blue studs. If the lighting was never all over the place, I would have rated at least 6 blue studs. Like I said before, it's not a perfect movie compared to the trilogy, but for a fun Indiana Jones experience, it fulfills that purpose. And hey, who knows? Maybe just like the Star Wars prequels, this movie will get more love and attention after the upcoming Indiana Jones movie hits theaters. Or maybe it won't. Time will tell in the Dial of Destiny. See what I did there? Never mind, fuck you. So those were my thoughts on Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. What'd you think of this movie? Did you love it when it first came out, or did you hate it? Share me your comments below. Please, keep it civil. Thanks for watching. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and send me feedback on how I can improve future videos, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!
ich mir allein